Okay, so my presentation is Wes Anderson Recolorized. I'm Danielle, and this was for my English 201. I decided to take a little bit of a spin on it. So in my AP Art history, we used to analyze artworks, which I think movies are, and change color to see if we could argue meaning or different meaning. So that's what I decided to do. And obviously meaning I find might be different than your interpretation. So I wanted to start off with Fantastic Mr. Fox. And this is the color palette that's used, and I just wanted to go over that. So he uses bright yellow mostly. It's not mostly, but it's one of the more common ones. It usually is used to show friendship or caution or hazardous. Then we have a deep red. Shows kind of a paradox. There's love or anger, and also does show danger again. And then we have our fox colors. That's our light tan orange and our dark orange brown. This is often seen in scenes where the attention is on Fantastic Mr. Fox, but it kind of envelops the environment and shows his selfishness. And then our cream, right? This is when he is kind of losing his narcissistic traits and showing reflective behaviors and apologizing for what he's done. So the first scene I analyzed is the beginning of the movie where we don't really know what's going on, and I don't want to give context yet. But what I interpret from the scene was always that something mischievous is happening, and I get that a lot from the background. When I asked other people what they saw, a lot of people saw maybe like a peaceful scene, and they again got that from the background. So I wanted to get rid of the background and see if I could change the meaning. So I just made it a sky blue. And I think when you compare it back to this image, it kind of loses that. For me, it totally lost his self, like everything's about him because there's no color in the background that's his color. It looks more reflective. It definitely loses like the element of danger. Moving on is this scene. The first thing that always pops up to me is this bright red wall. So immediately I think of either danger or love or passion. And then your eye is brought down because this man is in the center to him, and you start to see that he is unhinged and angry. So you're set up for a scene of, okay, this is an angry, unhinged man. And the background is quite barren. So I thought, like, if I wasn't watching the movie, I would see this as he's not rich, he doesn't have a lot of power, he's just unhinged and angry. So I decided to change the color and make it something that's kind of like royal. So I made it purple. In my opinion, this does change it all. I think it makes it calmer to me. And he definitely still looks unhinged, but it looks like he might be having a different motive. It's no longer just I'm wanting to, hunt someone, as you see in the background with all these antlers with the red. When you see that, you might think he's like wanting to kill someone, which is correct in the movie. But when you make it purple, to me, it just looks like he's kind of egotistical and he's just mad over like maybe something money related. Lastly is this scene at the end of the movie. And this is where I brought a research point I made in my essay. And it says, according to the scholarly article, Charming for the Revolution, a Gaga Manifesto by Jack Albertson, the scene with the wolf is meant to convey Mr. Fox's face-to-face with the wildness he fears and the wildness he harbors in himself. So to analyze the color a little bit, you got the gray-blue rocks, which this black wolf is standing on. So that's already a contrast, but cool tones. Then we have the white background, the white hills. That's a huge contrast to the black wolf. It makes you kind of see him as peaceful. Like you don't see it as like, when you see a wolf, you would think danger, but the white kind of brings up peacefulness, kind of like a dove white. So I wanted to, in a sense, kind of ruin that, get rid of that white. So I've made it like a more naturalistic landscape. And I think this completely gets rid of that argument of he's facing his fear. If I saw that, I would be afraid because it's in a natural landscape and it no longer looks like peaceful in any sense. Moving on to the next movie, which is the Royal Tenenbaums. This is the color palette again. We have our pastel blue and our pastel pink. This is often used with Margot, one of our characters. And it just kind of shows childhood and like a light feminine color. Our peachy yellow is often seen. Most of the family characters wear this on a suit. It just kind of shows their interconnectedness. Lightish brown, that's again the suits just when they're in a darker scene or like a darker environment is around. And then our deep red, our main character Royal, this is seen when he's a bad father or when someone's angry. It kind of envelops the environment around. So the first scene is royal. This is when he's sat across his kids, telling them he wants a divorce or he's getting a divorce from his wife. And this is kind of what leads to him being not excluded from his family. And so when I see this, it's definitely red, but I don't get like a motive. Like it's not dangerous. It's not, even though it's the color red, it means love. There's no love in this scene. He obviously does not like loving, but there's no danger and there's no anger either, really, in my opinion. So I decided to make it, I wanted to see if I could make a motive out of it. So I made it green because green often symbolizes money and greed. So I think when I see this, I now see a motive. At the same time, I feel like when I see this, if he has a motive of money, you would think that he would still want a relationship with his kids. And I kind of see that through here versus this image. I feel like he doesn't really care about his kids anymore. The next scene is Margot in the bathroom. So she has these light pastel colors, which are quite feminine, but they often do wash her out. And you can also see that on her dress. A light brown dress is often like a no-no because it kind of washes you out in fashion world. So that's the interpretation I've always gotten from the scene. And if you know the context, she sits in here for like 8 hours a day, just by herself, and she's stuck in this limbo so I made the scene like red. And so immediately what I get from this is I get like a hyper feminine energy. It's kind of like Cyndi Lauper, girls want to have fun. But to that meaning, I also feel like it looks like she's about to go out somewhere. It doesn't look like she's stuck in a bathroom for 8 hours a day versus in this image, it looks like she's like lost her importance. It looks like she would just sit there for 8 hours a day. Lastly is this image. This is at one of the scenes where Royal's being confronted. I really focused on the red background here. And the research point I brought up is from Wes Anderson's Filmic Images, which is a journal article. And the author brought up that the color red is a color of longing and having deep-rooted issues of attachment in the realm of fatherhood, which completely conveys this. We see Chaz, he is very angry with his dad throughout the movie, and he always wears red. So, and when Chaz is in a scene where he is angry with his dad, it often goes in the background and reflects it and makes a red scene. So I wanted to see if I could change the color to something that's completely opposite of red and make it blue and see if it would look sad. It kind of turned out purple. I think that's just because the red and purple, red and blue make purple, but I think it completely changes the scene and makes it more sad. Chaz's facial expression, in my opinion, here it looks like anger, but if I go here, I feel like it could be like a saddened, shocked look. Same with mom in the middle. She's in the middle. She looks angry here, kind of like a wife that's just like tired and fed up with him, versus here, this might be a shocked expression. So, thank you.
So when you were going through these scenes, did you try out like different like very different colors?
Yeah, so one especially was this one because I wanted to see if I could change his motive for the divorce. So I tried I ended up with green because I think it symbolizes money, and that's like the easiest expression of greed.
Because the first thing I was thinking of was like yellow for gold, especially with like the chandeliers and everything. And I was wondering if maybe you had tried that and like it didn't get really the same.
It's like a red scene, so putting yellow over it was really hard. I did try that, and I just ended up with green. I tried purple because that's a royal color, and his name is Royal, but it just didn't. I felt like green.
Makes sense.
It was the most interpretation for me.
Yeah. Okay.
Is more of a kind of observation on your last slide there on slide 15 is when you go from the original color, the focus is on Chaz and Richie, but I feel like when he changes to blue, the focus transitions to Ethel and to Henry. So you almost look past the two characters and look deeper into it, and even Margaret herself seems to stand out a bit more.
I think that if you look at, if you should watch the movie, it's really good. But each character has their own color palette that conveys like their relationship with their father. So I think changing that color palette, just like what you said, it completely changes sometimes what character is being focused on.
Yeah, I think that this is a really good shot for showing that they each do really have their own color palettes, their own, and it really, like, I've never seen the movie, but I feel like just based on looking at this shot, even like, I mean, you can see the facial expressions, but also like the style, the colorings that they're using, like I can imagine what kind of personalities they have in this movie.
It's one of those movies that you could break down like every character's color, but
Yeah.
that would be like a 100-page.
Yeah, one more. Did you ever, in your color analysis, did you ever consider analyzing the wardrobe outside of Chaz and Richie? For example, like Margot, who the color of her dresses, and sorry, this is for people that are aware of the film, but her color of her dress transitions from those cool cool tone pastel blues to the red striped dresses.
Yeah.
And that changing on the scenario that she's, is that something that you have been?
In my essay, I don't think I brought it up, but I did make the connection in my head. That often goes along with Richie. Like when she gets stripes and Richie wears stripes, it just kind of shows their relationship, what we're calling them, but
Danielle, really, really good job. I have two questions. Can you, first of all, just the mechanics, like how did you do this? I want to know, and like, what's the work that goes into taking these scenes and then saturating them with color? And then I'd like to follow up with something right after that.
so I used Adobe Photoshop and I'm on a free trial because I did not feel like spending that much money. But it took a lot. You have to I don't know how to explain it. You have to highlight things and then layer it. So I had like each image, like this one, I think was like 50 layers where like I had or one layer of just the TV, one layer of just the light switch. And I saturated it to how I liked it, or I changed the color, I made it black and white. I just edited it basically.
So they're just like layers stacked on top of each other?
A lot of that.
Yeah. Really well done. It's very seamless. The other thing I thought was interesting is the picture from Fantastic Mr. Fox with antlers in the background. That scene there, and that it was originally in red, right?
Yeah.
And the symmetry. And then the one that you did, you chose that one, and then the one that you chose with royal, it almost feels like there's like such a like just replace the characters, right?
Even the pattern, like if we look at the red here, like the red pattern and on the wallpaper, and then like wallpaper here. That's something I did realize. I was like, well, these are two very similar films, but that's how Wes Anderson is. He repeats a lot of his stuff in his movies.
That motif is continued through, and it's both focused that we get the same kind of interpretation of the character in the center there.
Yeah.
That's really, really well done. Excellent.
That's always like really interesting because it's always like someone in like power and like angry, which is interesting.
Yeah, I noticed the same thing. Often, I mean, I don't know. They're wearing the same outfit. That's something I noticed while photoshopping too. The same outfit, the same brown wall. His movies, like even though one was live action, one was it claymation? I think it was claymation. They're so similar somehow.
Are there other movies that you've seen this in? Can you give examples of?
I'm trying to think of he just came out with a new show. It has Steve Carell in it. I forgot the name of it, but he has a show, or I think it might be a movie, that is just like this. The color palette is consistent, and there's scenes where like it completely copies these. So he definitely continues that motif in other movies and shows.